When you consider a trade show, please consider the costs. And I'm not talking about booth fees. Booth fees are probably a minor part of your cost. A gift show is going to run you about $1,800 a booth. Some of the big apparel shows are going to run about $2,500 to $2,800 a booth. Some of the large industrial trade shows are going to run $3,000 a booth. In Japan, trade show space for a 3 meter by 3 meter is going to run $4,500 to $6,000 a booth. That does not include, in New York, Chicago, places like that, your labor unions in many cases, who can exceed the cost of the booth if you're not careful. Sometimes that stuff is packaged in, and you want to find out from the show promoter very quickly whether or not union labor is packaged in. There are different kinds of union labor that you have to pay for. We're going to go over those. The Teamsters, God bless them, even though they're being supervised by the feds, are going to deliver, probably, the Teamsters will deliver your boxes to the dock. The drayage handlers will deliver your boxes and your display to your booth. When it arrives in your booth, the carpenters will arrive to assemble your booth. We're only talking about New York and Chicago here right now, okay? There's some others. Most of the others have some leniency and some packaging deals that they'll offer. Then, after that's done, the electricians arrive to your booth. And they do the almighty plug. Your booth, however, did not include the electrical labor charge nor the cost of the juice for the electricity, which may be up to $150 additional. Okay? Our shows are totally packaged at about $850. You don't see union labor. They're transparent. They never arrive at your booth unless they're just volunteering to help out. They're prepaid. Now, all of this would be well and good if you could budget it, put it on a spreadsheet and say, gosh, that show's going to cost me $4,000, $5,000. I know what my costs are. I know that I'm going to make this much money at this show because this is what I made last year. Therefore, bang. There are a few other charges you have to be concerned about. One of them, unfortunately, has to do with cash under the table. Getting to the dock. If you're in a trade show with 2,000 other exhibitors, and there are 2,000 trucks waiting to get into the hall, you can imagine that the person involved in the trafficking of those trucks and who's where in line is a very powerful person. And someone's going to be unloading their van at 4 a.m. Sorry, that's just the way it is. If you got in line at 6 p.m. and you're 7 blocks from the convention center yet, and the line is moving very slowly, chances are your wallet's going to begin to itch and you're going to want to pay the guy off. And he'll pull you out of line and bring you right up to the dock for a couple hundred measly dollars and get you unpacked very quickly. Of course, in addition to that, he's going to have some friends there to help you get your boxes to, even though you may have paid for union labor already, in order for your boxes to be delivered, or other boxes or your display or whatever else you've got to be delivered to your booth on time. Of course, they have to go and search for your boxes, and you're in line and there are a lot of people ahead of you. At the end of the show, you're looking for your empty boxes so that you can start crating up your work, because otherwise you're going to be 4 a.m. again getting out of the hall as well as getting into the hall. So the wallet comes out again. There are trade shows that I've been in when the security guard asks if you want a little extra protection in the middle of the night so that nothing's stolen. Of course, we'd like you to keep an eye on our work. It's an amazing experience. Be very careful. Very careful. Convention center unions have gotten a little out of hand in the last 20 years or 30 years. The Javits Convention Center has come to blows with this a couple of times. In Chicago, one time, the International Bicycle Convention and Trade Show showed up. And they had bicycles from all over the world, and the Japanese executives came in, and the German executives came in, and the Italian executives and the French executives came in, and they were ready to start the trade show. The only problem was all the bicycles had been brought into the hall unassembled. They needed assembly. Do you think that the labor unions within the hall could handle this? No. Only these manufacturers knew how to properly assemble and adjust their product properly so it could be displayed and sold. And no union would allow the manufacturers to take a little wrench out of their pocket to tweak or assemble their merchandise. 2 days after the planned opening, the show opened because at 2 a.m. on what would have been one of the last days of the show, the union said, "Oh, okay, we've decided we can't do it all. Go ahead and do your own." 48-hour delay. It is absolutely incredible. Right now in Atlantic City, the unions are without a contract. They have not yet settled. We don't expect them to settle. If they do, you will be paying through your booth fees and through your own labor as much as $80 an hour for someone who never graduated high school to move your boxes from one end of the hall to the other end of the hall, if it's overtime. Straight time is around $38, $50, $40 an hour in major cities. The hall costs for me in Philadelphia are under $100,000. My labor costs are more like $250,000 to get the Philadelphia show up and running. And that does not include the setting up of your individual booth. But I guarantee $250,000 worth of labor to them so that you have the right to set up your booth. Okay? Everybody understand that? The remaining people who would have normally set up your booth end up directing traffic and doing other details for us. What is provided? What is required? Sometimes drapery is provided. The exhibit drapery that you find in many trade shows is provided. Sometimes it is not. Sometimes what is provided is green and white stripe, which may not fit in with your merchandise. So you'll have to change those panels. You need to find out what is covered, because additional drapery or changing drapery will cost you another $150. I think it's $40 per side of your booth if you have 3 sides.